Welcome back to this episode of Elaboration of the Philosophy. Today I have my good friend Ilia on. Ilia, how you doing?
How's it going? Pleasure to be here.
Awesome, thank you. It's a pleasure to have you. So I'm going to ask you the same first question that I ask everyone. So the question is, what is your philosophy and what experiences have led you to the latest shift in your philosophy? Also, you're close enough to the mic. I don't think you can chill
Great.
out and be relaxed. You don't have to lean through the whole time.
Sounds good. My philosophy, I guess I would say, I like to live my life in a way that I won't have any regrets in the future. That's probably the biggest point I can make about it. But also, I do believe in, treating people the way you want to be treated. Because honestly, I'm looking at it from a perspective of if I'm nice to everybody I meet, whether or not they're a bad person or whatever, you never know what can come from that out of life. You might be nice to one guy now, and then in 5 years you'll run into him again and he'll remember you for being a nice guy, and it could mean the world. So you never know.
Right, I agree. I think that it is very important to kind of treat people the way you want to be treated. For me, I feel that I have an understanding of the fact that I guess just this experience is such a unique one, but it's the hardest thing I've ever done in terms of just being, even though I've survived all of my worst days, it's still one of the hardest things I've ever done in terms of the culmination of all of it. And I try to respect everyone on that foundation of everyone's kind of doing the same thing.
Right.
We're all trying to just kind of figure it out, and I know that it's very hard, and I love that you and I kind of align in that way where we just want to treat people how
right.
we all want to feel the love and be
right.
kind. So you got to dish it out though. You have to be able to give it to get even a fraction of it. I feel
100%. I agree. I feel I've never. I know it could be a lot easier for people to just expect to receive kindness. I've seen that a lot in my life yet so far. I don't know. I think that if you're not putting yourself in people's perspectives, then you'll never truly get what you want out of life.
Word. I feel I guess for me I guess it starts with talking to people. I guess I guess the more you get to know someone, the more the nonverbal communication gets recognized. So I feel when you start off any type of acquaintanceship, you kind of, if you want it to be positive, you gotta treat the other person all the time as if it were yourself. But I guess more so in that first interaction, because you really don't know who the other person is, and you don't know how similar or different experiences have been experienced. But
right.
I feel through all of our individual unique experiences, there's I guess there's some commonality or universal thoughts and feelings that we all have on certain things, and I think it's important to kind of just respect people fundamentally on the first interaction, kind of be I respect you enough to
have this first conversation, right?
Yeah, word. And then from there, you judge the respect that you give, because you know respect can be taken away, can be earned. It can be, I guess you can act in which respect will no longer be given towards you.
Right. And also another thing I noticed was a lot of people, hear this philosophy of treat people the way you want to be treated, and think okay, I was nice to that guy, now he has to be nice to me. That's not true at all. You need to be okay with not getting the same output that you're giving, because some people are not going to be on that line. Maybe they just had the worst day of their lives, and you were nice to them, but they're being mean to you. So it doesn't mean that they're a mean person, and doesn't mean that you should reciprocate that. So.
Exactly. I think that it's almost you have to do it for yourself.
Right.
You have to be kind to others, yes, because you want to be kind to others and you don't like want to be a dick to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like, you want to do shit for you selfishly. Like, I feel like in society and like as I've grown up, really like there's been this push of like being selfish as like something that's bad.
Well, I think it depends on the way you look at it, because people will say, I'm not being selfish, I'm looking out for myself. But is what you're doing looking out for yourself, or is it pleasing everybody else?
Yeah,
Like I see a lot of people are like, oh, I'm learning to be a better me, but like you're still doing the same things you were doing when you weren't the better version of yourself.
Yeah,
So,
I agree. I think I know it's weird. I really can't even describe it much better than like what you said.
right.
Honestly, like with, I guess in terms of just, wow, the thought is now out of my head. That's horrible. This has happened so many times already, but this happens in our conversations all the time.
Yeah.
No, I don't even care. Nah, it's just I don't edit this shit. Like they're like
raw.
Yeah, like
Love it.
I want the goal like that. Like kind of goes into the whole like thing for me for the podcast. I guess like it does provide a platform where I can just have conversations with people and like. I know that you're someone that I've not only have had conversations with, but I will continue to have conversations with throughout my life, and I know that we have some pretty interesting shit to say. And like, I think that we can provide value for a lot of people to just kind of listen in like so many different ways. Like for me, this is like about being vulnerable and like showing people that being vulnerable and just expressing yourself is the almost it's really the most important thing you can do. Like you can't you have to do it for yourself. Full circle, bring it back to like I'm doing it for selfish reasons despite me like really wanting people to learn and to gain insight and value to what I had to say and what you have to say and what all of my other guests have to say when we have conversations. Like, I'm doing this shit for me.
Right.
I learn from the person that I have on every single time.
Yeah.
I learn when, as I'm speaking, there are thoughts that I've either never had before or haven't had in a long time, and I look at things in a different way. It's like, oh shit, like, we're doing crazy shit here, and like, it's surreal to me, honestly, just the whole, like, culmination of just everything. Like, today, as we record, this is like 2 days before the first episode's gonna release, so it's just so, there's just so much, honestly. But,
awesome.
There's one thing I wanted to move on to. While you were here, I didn't know at what point we were going to be able to get to it. Almost wanted to bring it up before, but then I was like, all right, it will eventually just come up in the conversation if it either goes to it or we just start it fresh. But you are a part of your own little projects as of the past. For me, I've been around it for give or take a year in terms of just knowing you and hanging out with you. But I guess I kind of want to give you the floor if you're down to kind of just talk about really what you're doing and what I guess your projects and Seashelves is all about.
Sure. Yeah. I would say like the way it started was obviously, you know, my whole life I feel like I've been into movies and TV. But, you know, when you're younger, it's more like a entertaining aspect. It's not like, yo, I'm going to be that guy. And even if it is, it's more like a dream. It's not a reality. But now, we know, we're at that age where, you know, we're either finishing up college or we just graduated. And it's like, all right, time to start your life. So I feel like what really happened for me was I started noticing these two guys. Shout out to Mike and Dom, who I work with now. I knew them from high school. And I started seeing as of March, around the time that like the pandemic started, they were putting out a lot of content consistently. And that's really what caught my eye, was that like, wow, look at these guys who are so passionate about the same kind of things that I am. doing it on a consistent basis, and it's going great. It looks phenomenal. So I reached out to them and told them, like, hey, listen, if there's anything at all that you guys would need, any help at all on set, or you want me by just to talk about any ideas or anything like that, I'm open to it. So they took me in. I helped them shoot a video of theirs. I want to say it was like maybe April or May. I can't remember exact date, but it was the first video I ever worked on with them, and basically they just thought like I fit right in, like I was like the missing piece, like they thought that I brought the energy that they needed, because the two of them, and they have a third friend that is usually helping us, they've been friends their whole lives. I knew them in high school, but I wasn't really friends with them. You weren't
like chilling with them
right.
on a constant basis.
Exactly. So when I was on set with them, I was all like, hey, I'm going to be so professional right now. Like, I really want to show these guys, like, I'm about this. And I'm not like every other person that's hitting them up the same way I am. Hey, let me be in your videos. Hey, let me help you out. Because, you're going to get an abundance of people to reach you out for help. But then when it comes down to, action, doing it, you get maybe 2 or 3 people that are actually going to do what you need and not give you a hard time and not complicate things, but instead make everything 10 times easier.
Yeah. So
that's basically what I was for them. I was that third source of a person that had the same, vision, had the same passion, had the same commitment as them, and they saw that I was willing to put out, put aside a lot of things I was doing in life to be there for them when they needed me, instead of me being like, oh, I can't today, can we push it, stuff like that. It was always, yes, I'm there,
Yeah.
And, from then on, we just kept working together, and I basically became, officially part of the team. And now it's been 1, 2, 3. I think this is the 6th video that's coming out tomorrow, Thursday. Well, this is going to be aired. It'll have come out already, but this is the 6th video that I just finished working on them with. And honestly, it feels like the past couple of months have flown by, and there's a lot of big things coming up. I can't necessarily say yet.
Yeah, of course.
But it's really looking up. It's like, this is something that I'm glad I decided to do, because it could potentially, and not even potentially, I feel like it's going to happen. It's going to be one of those things that works out in the long run and really just sets me up for my career and all that stuff.
Yeah, I think like the one thing that because everything that you just said was so like just the story of you're going from just wanting to do something that you recognize as that has some root in childhood experience,
right.
And like you went from wanting something to, at the end of the day, just asking for what you wanted from these two people that was also something that they wanted.
Right.
And now you're in a spot that you couldn't have even imagined
definitely
ever,
not. Yeah,
and,
definitely not.
The one thing that really caught my attention was right at the end. It said that you said that the past like few months have flew by.
Yeah.
And like, for me, I want to kind of bring that into just the general feeling of like really doing shit that you want to do.
Yeah.
It's like, this is where I'm at now. And like, even the past couple weeks where a lot of things started to come together in terms of my logo, the people I want to have on, the ideas that I want to talk about, like those coming together so quickly. And now I'm here. And
now we're doing it.
Yeah, now we're doing it. I guess like I really want to hear your perspective on like how doing shit that you wanted, I guess, through life has changed, and have you always done what you wanted? Because like for me, it's like I know that I didn't always do what I wanted to do. I was always very worried about a lot of things, mainly everything but myself, but I also know that it was all distraction from taking care of myself.
Right.
So I kind of want to hear just your perspective on that for you.
Yeah. To be completely honest, even though people always feel like, of course, a lot of people feel like they don't know what they're doing with their lives and they don't know what they're going to do. On the other hand, there's a lot of people that feel like they do, and they're like,
Yeah.
oh, I know what I'm doing, I'm good. I feel like I have always been that person,
I love that.
but as of the past half of a year, I feel like I've lied to myself about it, because I feel like now that I'm doing this with them, with seashells, and now that I'm dedicating so much of my time and energy into exactly what I want out of my life, I'm starting to realize it was never how I thought in the past. You know, it's always been this, but I've always pushed it away because it's such a unrealistic dream or reality more. You know, like that's my things. Like I was born in Europe. I came here at a young age, and my whole life and mindset was, this is my one chance and opportunity that nobody else in my family has except my brother, who's obviously, you know, here with me, and I'm supposed to make something of it. I'm supposed to be that doctor, that lawyer, that teacher. You know, my parents brought me to America and I became a successful person and make money and support a family, this and that. So that's like drilled into my brain from such a young age. I moved here when I was 7, and before I moved here, I'm just thinking like, whoa, this is fun. Like, I'm having a good time as a kid, you know? Boom, now I'm here learning a third language, and now fast forward, you know, 14 years later, I'm like, what the hell am I going to do with my life? I'm graduating college next semester, and I have no plans for after college. I'm hearing, yo, did you apply to jobs? What? Like, even if I apply to a job, like, am I just going to apply somewhere and then get hired and then start working 8 to 5 every day and all this stuff? Like, no.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like, once I started getting into this, you know, back and forth with making the videos, I'm adjusting a lot more. You know, I'm starting to become more, I'm starting to prioritize a lot better and like manage my time, because I'm starting to realize how little time I have every day. Like 24 hours is nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like in one day.
I feel that we have, like, it's weird because we have so much time, but at the same time,
yes, exactly.
Like, it's so, like, I try to, like, sometimes I forget the good side of the tools that we have, because there's always a balance in all of the tools and constructions and the languages and all of the things that have been developed. There's equally good and bad, and I forget that with the time, I always forget how good it is, but you also have to, like, you almost can't try to you have to maximize your time, but like you can't like overload yourself.
Right.
Like,
we have so much time that we know what to do with, and when we try to fill it up, that's what creates all those problems. It's like, yo, we have to fill up this time. Like, what are we going to sit around for 3 hours today? What are we talking about? We have so much going on in our lives.
You know, and sometimes I feel like, yo, today, like, the past couple of days, I've really been stressing out, especially because was launch week, and, like, just going crazy over a bunch of things. And, like, what I realized is that, like, I just needed to really chill out and, like, give myself the respect I deserve for being at the center of it all. Like last weekend, I was in Corwin. I tripped on mushrooms with a couple of my friends.
Nice.
And like, the one thing I learned more so than anything was like, I'm at the center of it all in terms of my experience.
Right.
And there's so many factors that influence me in one way or another, and like I forget that, like, there's, like, I'm still here.
Right.
I haven't disappeared. I haven't like vanished. I haven't ceased to exist, and like the journey still goes, and like for me, I'm starting to realize more and more that I am doing what I want to do. I am creating the reality that I live, you know? Like, one thing I've, like, almost, like, on mushrooms, what I really felt, and I feel it every time, but more so, kind of, like, the feeling of things falling into place. And just, like, fuck, like, these are things I think about every day, and here they are. And, like, what I've come to realize is that we really do control our reality. And, like, there are certain things that we, quote, can't control in terms of, like, other, like, things happening to you. Right. But I feel like in terms of how what we do and how we perceive it, and, like, what we make of it is what we
All up to
control,
us,
and that's
100%.
our reality.
Yeah.
You know, like we can't.
Do you think that because like a lot of people feel like, okay, I need some kind of end goal, whether or not it's what my parents want or what I want or my friends want, I need an end goal.
Yeah.
I've felt like recently, like I feel like I want to live a life that I rather, let me say it this way, I rather live a life, you know, where I'm constantly learning and adjusting rather than live a life where it's like step 1 through 100 and then once I hit 100 I'm just there.
Yo, I've said this, I've like depicted this through like a couple different times on the podcast already with the episodes I've recorded. I've articulated that thought with numbers, and I guess I want to share that with you now.
Yes.
Basically, one thing that's been more prevalent in one of my math classes right now, we're talking about sequences.
Okay.
And specifically, I want to talk about the limits of sequences. So basically, take two sequences. One of them is you start at 1, and then you go up 2, 3, 4, all the way to infinity.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have another sequence that starts at 1, and it's just ones.
Mm-hmm.
For me, if you look at life as that one, in terms of
The
shit
first
that you have
sequence.
to do, like 1, 2, you got to do the first thing and the second thing, then you will never reach all of the things that you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, the limit on the things that you have to do is
never
infinite,
ends, right.
which means it never ends,
Yes.
and you always have to do shit.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I try to live on the second sequence. You
Okay.
take each experience as 1,
Mm-hmm.
and then you do the
Other
next
experience,
one, and then the next
Right.
one at a time.
Right.
And then not only is the whole sequence 1,
Mm-hmm.
the limit of that sequence is 1,
Mm-hmm.
and what I interpret from that is that if you take things one at a time, not only are you going to get to where you want to be,
Mm-hmm.
but you're always where you want to be
Okay,
because you're
exactly.
taking shit
Yeah,
one
yeah.
at a time.
Yes.
And
I
for me,
100% agree with
For
that.
me, it's very hard to do that sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be doing homework and then doing work and then
Right.
doing other shit.
Yeah.
I'm just like, one thing,
it's
do
hard
this
now.
first.
That's
and then
another
this.
thing.
Yeah,
It's
it is
hard now. I think wait till we hit like 25, 30 years old. That's when really I think the chance to live a life you want happens. Because now it's like, we got to worry about school. We got to worry about living at home. We got to worry about all these things. I know it's not easy to move out and like have to pay your own bills because then priority becomes a job and making the money. But honestly, like, you know, I'm not, of course I want to live in a mansion and drive a sports car and all this stuff, but like, I'm not opposed to living a much simpler life of just having, you know, an apartment and a regular car and then just traveling a lot and experiencing a lot of things, you know, because in the long run, you know, it's not like the end of the world if I settle down much later in my life.
Agreed.
You know? And, you know, not to change subjects, but like having kids is such a complicated topic in this day and age specifically.
I agree.
So it's like,
with you.
of course I want to have a little boy, a little girl. I want to raise them, you know, my family.
Kids.
Yeah. But like, it's going to be such a harder life for them than it was for us, than it was for our parents, etc.
I agree and disagree equally.
I understand why you agree. Why do you disagree?
The only reason why is because I literally was thinking about like the thought of having kids today, and like
today you're gonna have
for
them?
me, I think no, not today, but for me, what I think was so hard about our parents' parenting and then our experience was in their process of growing up. They were hammered home, figure it out, figure it out, figure it out, figure it out, and now we're hammered with the figure it out shit, figure it out, even though they don't have it figured out, and our grandparents don't have it figured out, and no one has it figured out, and no one will ever have it figured out. That's what I realized, first of all.
Right.
Second of all, when I have that, I want to, before I even think about bringing kids into this world to raise, I need to make sure that I am secure in myself.
Right.
Mentally, physically, financially, in a space where I can bring kids in and give them experiences that I think
don't give them a hard life, right?
And it's not even that it's a hard life, but I want to an easy life. I just want to give them. I want to be able to provide them with out of this world experiences. And I
Right.
feel like in this world, a lot of out of world experiences require the financial backing to not
Yeah.
only do it, but to protect yourself.
Mhm.
Like, you have to be able to afford to do it
And also afford it for
so many
Right.
times over. Like, I'm like, I'm not in that position right now, and I know I won't be in my 20s. So
right.
for me, I'm not having kids in my 20s. But then you have the complex of a lot of both male and female, but mostly females that like want to get going on the family, and they have to get married by 25 and have kids by
Right.
28 and do these crazy things, and then everyone puts themselves in a box, and
You
it's
know
like those ideas aren't even yours, bro.
The biggest thing about that I've noticed, obviously this conversation comes up a lot. I feel like people are afraid to have kids at an older age because how will their little kids support them when they're older? You know, it's like if you're having your first kid at 40, you're gonna be 50 when your kid's 10. You're gonna be 60 when your kid's 20. So a 20-year-old's going to take care of a 60-year-old? You know what I'm saying? Like, of course he can, but what financially, stuff like that, that's where those things factor in. So you really, it's like almost like impossible for us to create that middle ground life. We need to aim for very successful financially so that we can create this easier life for not only me, but now my kids who I won't have to worry about taking care of me. Because I'll have enough money to have somebody take care of me while they can live their lives.
Exactly. Like, I want to... Like, at the end of the day, like, I don't want to put my kids in a spot to, like, exactly, like, God forbid anything were to happen to me, like, yes, I know they're going to love me to death, and I know that they will want to take care of me, but I also know that, like, yo, if I'm fucking 85 and I'm half out of it and, like, I have to be taken care of, I want my kids to experience. My kids are going to have kids at that point. Like, I want them to be able to provide their kids, which would be my grandkids, much of the same things that I would try to provide for them in terms of the love and, like, the adventure, really.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's...
Opportunity. It's not easy for parents to create opportunity because, I mean, I would say for our generation, our parents to create opportunity for us because, you know, they weren't all rich millionaires. You know, they had hard lives. You know, if anything, we're getting the easier life. But now, if we don't work hard at it, we're not going to keep going up. We're going to either stay the same or go lower.
It gets easier and harder. It goes both ways. And I think that, like, it's very important to kind of, like, again, like, almost be selfish in trying to, at the end of the day, like, almost get good at the game. Like, that's kind of what we're playing. We're in a weird game, and, like, you have to choose to either give it all away for the sake of balancing everyone's experience out, or you know that there's going to be equally good and bad, and you have to try and do what's best for yourself, but best for yourself in the way that makes you the most happy and helps you radiate the most love. For me, it's this. Eventually, this is not only going to be a streamline of income for me, eventually it will be the primary.
Exactly.
And then eventually, after that, if I'm ever so lucky to build this brand in terms of just having people on and talking about it, you look at a guy like Joe Rogan, who literally is pretty much the model that I'm following in terms of just having the conversation. He has a much more, quote, intelligent, educated people. Right. But, like, he's at a
That's
point...
with experience, though.
He's at a point where he said it to... Exactly. It
exactly.
comes with experience.
He's not a 20-year-old kid in his room.
Exactly.
So, obviously, there's a lot... You're doing the same model with different tools.
Exactly. Like,
you know?
and I have to use my resources. And
right,
like,
exactly.
Like, I know that for me, like you included, like, all my friends are resources. And I want to provide that as well. Like, I don't want to, like, say, like, hey, like, come, like, for me, it's weird. Like, it's weird to explain it. Like, I guess in a hypothetical, not really hypothetical, because it's a real scenario, like, if you needed any help, like, it's there.
Right.
But I also know that you don't expect that. If
Right.
that makes sense, like, and it's the same thing.
Yes,
like, it's
100.
reciprocated.
Yeah, it's like I know what you mean. You know, because like you hit me up, hey, you want to come to the podcast? Yeah, I'm down. That's it.
Yeah.
The only reason I would say no is I have other obligations, or I'm sick. Period.
Yeah, and
you know what I mean.
And
So,
for me, I even respect the fact if you're just like, hey, I'm not fit today.
yeah,
I'm
but
just
like,
not feeling it, and like I know, like for me, like
right.
I know that you aren't the type to
Yeah,
do
I'm
that,
not.
but like even then, it's like, all right,
Yeah.
Ilia's not fit to do today. It's better that there's a day
Right.
that he's fit to where for whatever reason
Instead of
it's a
forcing
better,
it, time,
yeah,
I understand. Right,
bro.
100%.
It's fucking. I'm just very grateful for you and for everyone.
Thank you.
Really, at the end of the day, and like, it's nice to kind of just live the reality that I've wanted to live.
Yeah.
Because I put a lot of stress on myself to like think about it in the imaginary land, and I can just be like, oh,
You know
it's
what?
real.
Yeah, you know what I like? I like Nick because ever since I became friends with him, I've gotten easier on myself.
Yeah, like,
You know, looking at him, he dropped out of college, and then every time we talk about, the future, whether it's relationship-wise or job-wise, whatever, he's never the guy that's like, I have it all figured out. He's like, nah, I'm 21. I got so much time. Meanwhile, I'm on the other end like, bro, I'm dying over here.
Yeah.
Why am I dying? Why am I not slowing down? You know, like, I don't have to get lazy. I just have to start figuring out, focus on the little things right now. I don't have to worry about the big picture because it's not here.
The big picture is made
The
up
little
of
picture.
all of the little
pictures,
things
right.
and the little pictures.
Exactly.
Like, it's just such a crazy thing in general. Like, I'm so grateful for Nicky. He's been other than me physically taking all the steps that I needed to start this podcast.
Right.
He's been at the forefront in terms of helping me plan and to just make moves. And like at the end of the day, like he's someone who I'm very grateful for being a part of our team.
Mm-hmm.
Just like at the end of the day, he brings something to the table that I feel that a lot of us needed almost.
Yeah.
Like,
yes,
like
very true.
I feel that we all do the same for him, and that's why he does what he does. Like, and the same thing. Since we're talking about Nick, the same thing goes out to Dan. Like Dan, like that.
Oh
of
yeah.
them are like,
wow. Yeah, iconic for sure.
Both of them are.
I never
so,
thought I'd meet somebody like her in my life. It's
literally,
crazy.
She's just so. I think she really understands the freedom in which like individuality almost takes.
Being yourself,
like,
right?
Really, just being yourself and not giving a fuck and helping people,
right?
And like
caring more about people than expecting people to care about you, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like for me, this is like it's the same model of what Dan's doing. Just I'm doing it with a microphone and with these conversations, and Dan does it through spiritual guiding to yoga to meditation, to all of it being the same thing, but all of it also having its different parts. Like it's just so crazy. I need to talk to her, honestly. I think
definitely get her on.
No, I not only to get her on, but like at the end of the day, like in Cortland, like there was a point where I was like, the first half of the trip was very intense. That got in my head a lot. It was mainly because like I felt if I decided to completely let go of all things physically, I thought my bodily functions, such as peeing, shitting, maybe even throwing up, all of it was going to be literally out of my control to the point where I'm just a body part that looks like is suffering so bad. If you saw someone shit, piss, and vomit, you would be fucking worried.
Yeah.
Even though I know that's where I need to be to like learn some of the most important lessons to date, and like I've been thinking about it, and I feel like Dan and Nick would, mainly Dan because she is the god, but like I feel like both of them kind of being there for me tripping in their space, like
it might do something. It might trigger something.
I think it would be because for me, like at the point where I was, there were about 5 people that I would full blown want to be around to let go with, and it's my siblings, and then it's Dan and Nick, and it's like, with mushrooms, you don't talk about people that are out of your family,
right?
Really, like, unless if you're chilling doing with friends. But for me, like,
right, it's a different experience.
It's a whole different experience, and I think that being in their space to potentially, like, let go in that way and like full blown, just what I feel it is just diving right into the geometry. Like, I feel like the visuals that I see on mushrooms, and even when I see them when I'm not even on mushrooms, when I'm sober, like not even stoned, sober, like I'll look and I'll see the circle, I'll see just tiny circles, and I'm like, that's what everything is. Like, like I was on my friend's driveway when we were tripping, and I was just looking across the street, and it was tunnel vision almost, but it was my whole perception just like real, like closed but expand at the same time, and like geometry was fulfilling the whole thing, but it wasn't even like I wasn't not seeing the world, if that makes sense. Like, I wasn't full-blown hallucinating, seeing shit that wasn't there. I was seeing the shit that was there in a way that I never thought I could ever see it before.
Okay.
And it was just crazy. Like, one thing that my friend Joe saw, because my friends Fran, Joe, and Mike, it was all the first time they tripped.
Oh, wow.
And one thing that he noticed was the trees and the colors like the trees vibrating, like the colors blinking. Almost like there was a tree where like half the leaves were pink and half of them were orange. Right. And like when I told him, like, he's like, I saw the red like almost like warm and then cooled off, and then the orange would get warm and then cooled off. And I was like, yo, the trees are talking to you. Like, for me, when I walk around the neighborhood, if I'm sober, I notice a lot of the wires, a lot of the wooden poles. I notice a lot of the houses, the cars. When I smoke, it's like, all right, it's half and half. I'm looking at the trees, I'm looking at the house, I'm looking at everything. Yeah. When I'm on mushrooms, I'm like, these houses and these cars are not home. These wires are not home. They're creating a different reality. I look at the trees, and the trees are talking to me, saying, wake up, like, this is where you're supposed to be, like you're missing out on a whole bunch of shit that you're kind of doing that's fucking shit up. Right. And like, for me, like, it was just so crazy, because I really do feel like we do, like, the consciousness is all around us. Like, the age-old question of, like, is there other intelligent life? That term, intelligent life, is consciousness, and it's everywhere.
Yeah, there's conscious life everywhere. Like, how do you depict intelligent? Exactly, right? They have to be built like us. They have to work like us, like for them to be considered intelligent. But also, like, I don't know. For me, it's like, I don't really. I mean, of course, it matters, but I don't think we're gonna get there in our time. I don't know. I don't think we're evolving the right way as a society. So I feel like we're going to stop caring less about what's out there and more about how to survive here.
Yeah, like, I think that
because we're not growing together as a world, you know?
I agree.
That's why that's another thing that makes life harder. You know, if there was peace everywhere, nobody would be thinking, what am I going to do with my life right now? I feel like everybody would just be them. Everybody would just be. You know,
but I also think it's important to kind of. I think that's kind of the thing. No matter what people are being, I think if it's out of love and it doesn't hurt anyone directly, meaning like I'm not punching you in the face, right? Then because for me, like, what I've come to understand is that it is not my obligation nor my responsibility to have others either A, worry about me, or B, perceive something I say as something negative, and then they blame me for the way they perceive something. Yeah, like, I just think it's very important to, like, kind of look inwards and be introspective and, like, not don't like. All of the answers are within the soul, and that comes from the song "Courage to Grow" by Rebelluton, or however you pronounce it. The album was written in 2007. Those are all the random facts about the album, but the song "Courage to Grow," it's like all of the answers are in your soul. Any question you have, if you're looking for the answer outside, you're not going to find it.
Right. Yeah, look inside.
Yeah, and I think
agree.
It's one of the most important things that we can really do as human beings. I think that there's equal benefit to the human aspect, because I always feel that we've been being.
Right.
It's always like we've been doing it forever, I feel. So the human aspect physically is very important, you know, and it's kind of what we try to manifest from it. And I think like responsibility is key.
Right.
But like it's hard to like it's finding responsibility through discipline too, and like it's very hard to like I guess really get on the pattern and the routine and like getting into the flow of like just doing the shit that you want to do and also not doing the shit that you don't want to do.
It ties
or
back
the over shit. Oh, like overusing shit. Like
it definitely ties back to just how much every generation is expected of, because you know, how are we supposed to do everything you're saying? That sounds great and sounds like the right way to live a life, while every other generation before us is like, bro, why the fuck did I do everything like they told me and now you get to live your life? Nah, you got to do it this way so that I can be satisfied with my life for doing my puzzle piece of a life fit. Thank God, you know, because if you don't, now I'm like, yo, the puzzle didn't end and this guy's going to another puzzle. Like, what the fuck, you know? Yeah. Basically, I know that's kind of jumbled.
No,
but
I got you. Like, you can't, like, you cannot, like, you really can't control others, and you can't project that shit.
It's so hard.
You can't.
And I feel bad because I wish I could have been their parents and told them, hey, don't worry about it. You're gonna be all right.
I think, like, I don't know. I almost feel like that's why we're here, because like this was all like all of what happened was supposed to happen. Nothing that isn't supposed to nothing that happened wasn't supposed to happen. Then it wouldn't have happened.
I think this past century has been the cycle breaking slowly, because I mean, what do you think? Do you start to see things panning out differently? You know, like I don't, you know, it's not obviously technology developing is kind of the reason for it, because without everything that we have now with social media and stuff, I feel like we all would be farmers right now, 100%. That's just the way life was for so long. That's the way the world worked. So without that technological advancement, we would still be there. But now, what that's created for us is not only the opportunity to have so much potential living a life of enjoyment and adventure, but also, wow, we can do what we were doing, farming, but now a little differently. It's computers now. And like, as long as we all just go that route, we'll be even better in life. But like, what if we don't want to go on that route?
Exactly.
They created an opportunity for us to live a life, but at the same time, live the life they've been trying to create for every single living being, so that the world can work in perfect harmony. You know?
Yeah, I think that as the use of electricity, I guess, in such different, unique ways, like, it has provided that opportunity for a lot of people to, like, live an experience that, like, really has just never been before in terms of our interpretation of history.
Right.
And, like, I think at the end of the day, like, it has brought equally good and bad. It will always bring equally good and bad. And, like, I don't know.
We're just forced to do the bad when we want the good.
Yeah, like, I think that you gotta really, like, I guess the best way to put it is, like, quote good and bad can be almost associated to like having control of a situation and not having control of a situation, or like life. I think we always kind of ride the fine line of good and bad, or having control of things and not having control of things, or like any two quote opposite ends of any spectrum. I feel like we always ride the middle line, because that's what it is. Like
Right.
the opposite ends of the spectrum are merely different expressions of the same thing. Like,
Right.
I think that's what we all are. And I guess at this point in how our society has, I guess, developed, there's a weird balance of like, there one way goes into technology, but then like the other way strays completely away from technology, and then there's a third way that kind of like almost like goes into drugs in a sense, like in terms of substance use, all substances throughout the whole entire world, not just what we traditionally think is drugs,
Right.
but all like foods, all of it.
Right.
And like it's a weird thing, because there are so many different practices that kind of broaden the spectrum of experience. Like, a lot of people are very technological savvy, and to the point where we live in a reality where you can have an arm even if your arm wasn't there.
Yeah.
Fully controllable.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Like, it's fucking insane.
Yeah,
There are people
very.
without legs that run.
Right.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And like,
You
I
think
think that's very important, but I also think it brings.
I know. Yeah, you're right.
Because there's always a balance. So there's equally great shit, but you also got to realize there's going to be equally quote destructive shit too.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing, like I think all of this good and bad kind of ties back to just societies being created, because, when I took an anthropology class last semester, and I remember him telling me how, the two key things were, I'm trying to remember the first part of the terms, but they both are forms of solidarity. I think it was mechanical solidarity and I can't remember. See, that's why I'm not good with school, man. You learn great, interesting things.
I guess. What do you mean by mechanical?
So I could explain the two. I just don't remember the other term. But mechanical solidarity is the way we function right now, where everybody is one part of something, like a machine. We are all a factor of society, and we're all dependent on society. Yeah. Where'd you get your clothing? Where do you get your food?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what mechanical solidarity is describing. The other one, which I still can't figure it out, is how things used to be before societies were created. So like villages, townhouses, that kind of sort of thing, where every single human being, they all knew how to hunt and they all knew how to gather, right? So now we're not dependent on each other. If you don't want to hunt for me, I'll hunt for myself.
Yeah.
If you don't want to gather for me, I'll gather for myself. I can go 2,000 miles in this direction and be able to do the same thing I'm doing right now. Hunt and gather. You can do the same. Everybody that lives around us can do the same thing. So we're all very independent in that sense. We're
independent in the sense that, like,
we can manage ourselves.
Have to.
It's about like the management, I think. Because back then we didn't rely on each other. We worked together, but we didn't rely. I wasn't dependent on you. Exactly. Now we're so extremely dependent that I don't think it's possible not that it's not possible, but that's why it's such a greater challenge for us to become that independent, person who lives their life.
I guess from there it comes down to like learning, like, you look at the needs that need to be met for survival.
Right.
Like, that's eating food, and that's having shelter.
Right.
Also drinking water, but like
it ties in, right?
Yeah, it all ties in. Like,
water, food, and shelter, right?
Because for me, like, I feel that everything's interconnected, and like everything's so dependent on each other. Because like, if things weren't dependent on each other, then they wouldn't exist in themselves. Like, they wouldn't be unique in themselves. And
True.
then, like, they wouldn't... everything needs its opposite to exist, and then when you take all of the things and their opposites, it's just kind of everything.
Yeah.
And, like...
Yeah, it's impossible to have one without the other.
Very.
Because, again, and he told me in class, that's why we have both. You know, that's why... I'm gonna have to like look it up because it's gonna drive me crazy.
But we have mechanical solidarity, and so like, I guess basically we try to see how we function now, but we also look back at history, in a sense.
Yeah, it's like
you can't look into the future,
right?
And in that way,
organic solidarity.
Okay,
that's the other one.
Okay.
Yeah, so here it says mechanical solidarity is the social integration of members of a society who have common values and beliefs. These common values and beliefs constitute a collective conscious that works internally in individual members to cause them to cooperate. That's the dependency, right? But with organic? Yeah, so organic solidarity, wow, what a term. With organic solidarity is social... cohesion based upon the dependence individuals have on each other in more advanced societies. It comes from the interdependence that arises from specializations of work and the complementaries between people. No. Okay. So everything I said, but switch them.
Flip them. So organic is the
now.
way we function now, and mechanical solidarity is how it used
exactly.
To be. Okay.
That makes more sense because we were like machines in the past. Everybody just knew what they were doing. Now it's like we're a body. You know, you're the heart, I'm the brain. Yeah. We're all dependent on each other to survive. That's how you described it. I remember now.
So I kind of feel like it's so weird because I really do feel that, you know, I am part of a whole. You know, I'm part of this like functioning machine. At the end of the day, like this is what I think about. Like, we're all human beings. Mm-hmm. And I guess we'll end it on this note just because we also have fucking Nickies to attend to.
Yeah.
But just like, I really do feel that I am a part of a whole, but I also feel as human beings, like, we are, as living beings, we are a part of a greater whole, which is the Earth. The Earth is a living being. Mm-hmm. It's conscious.
Yeah.
The Earth, that's conscious, is a part of a solar system of planets revolving around this star. Mm-hmm. The consciousness isn't lost. Bring it the other way. We're made up of a bunch of organs. Mm-hmm. A bunch of the organs are made up of cells, and those cells are made up of atoms.
Right.
Where does the consciousness start and stop?
Right.
For me, I've come to realize that we're all kind of this whole...
This one conscious.
One...
Right.
Big consciousness that experiences itself in unique ways. Mm-hmm. Like on mushrooms, like that encompassment, we've labeled as God.
Yeah.
And like, I feel that we are God. Like, I truly feel that we are not only, like, let me put it to you this way. Like, God knows, as the knower of all things, that knowing everything's born.
Right.
So why would we
know everything?
Why wouldn't God create something to where it can experience as many different things through as many different eyes at once?
Right. Instead of just everybody knowing everything.
And then it's like, oh shit, we're fucking God.
Right.
Like, and for me, it's kind of been like, alright, no one's ever going to have it all figured out, but we all got some of it figured out, kind of.
Right.
So, we have to talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, I know you have their shit that you've experienced that have led you to lessons that I've never learned and vice versa.
Right. 100%.
It's just what it is. And I think that it's important to know that we are of the same essence, because at the end of the day, you can quote objectively say, all right, everything that's here, if you lump it all together, it's one thing. It's everything.
Right.
Then it's like, oh shit, that's really the case. We're all different expressions of the same thing.
Right.
We're all doing like the same thing here, I feel, and like,
It's just in different ways. It's all the same
Yeah.
thing in different ways. Like you said, you're tripping off mushrooms, you're looking at the same block, but you're seeing it differently. It's still the same thing.
Yeah.
So we just got to
Literally.
start seeing everything differently in order to,
Exactly.
learn
And,
about
like, and that
everything.
includes ourselves
Right.
too. Like, you
Yeah.
gotta look at yourself not from the self that you've always thought was yourself. Like, you
Or
gotta
don't look at yourself from your parents' perspective. Don't look at yourself from society's perspective.
look at
it
yourself
from
just like,
your
yo, like,
perspective.
what
Yeah.
are you gonna do?
Yeah,
like,
you.
how do you feel about yourself today?
Right.
Like, you don't feel so good? Why don't you feel so good?
Right.
And then I feel like with most of those conversations, like, it always ends with talking about childhood trauma and troubles and fears.
Just the way we were
and,
built,
like,
raised.
that's why it's very important to, like, get to the root of shit.
Yeah.
And, like, talking about your experiences help.
So
I
hard for
feel-
people to talk.
And and I get
So
it, because
hard.
people have been conditioned to not feel powerful, and then it brings them to the point of not being able to share their shit because they've also been conditioned that sharing their shit makes them weak.
Yeah.
And no one wants
Yeah.
to feel
Sharing
weak.
your shit means you don't got to figure it out. Why do you
People-
need to talk to people about it? You should have it figured out already.
Exactly.
You know?
And when it's just such a crazy thing that we do here. Like, when people have been conditioned to not be powerful, they don't want to be weaker than they've
Right.
already been told they've been. So they're not going to share the shit that they have to share that actually gives them the strength and will
Right.
to be at the end of the day. And I think it's very important that you just talk about your shit, and it's so hard. I've tried. It's the hardest thing I do every day.
Mhm.
But it gets easier because I know it really brings me to the place where I want to be. If I never talked, if the first time that I've ever talked about me being depressed and having suicidal thoughts after my dad died, I was in the middle of Mike's diner with my sister. I told her, and she was just like, "How do you feel?" I'm just like, very raw and vulnerable and gross. But if I never did that, I wouldn't be here.
Right.
And that's not only like a be here in this spot talking to you over the microphone,
Right.
but I wouldn't be here on the planet.
Right.
Like, that's where I was at. And
Yeah,
like,
you're right.
it's-
It becomes a whole bottling situation. Bottles has so much space, has so little space. The more you're gonna fill it up, it's gonna explode eventually.
Exactly.
It's not gonna just keep holding everything in.
That's
This isn't a magic bottle.
Like, that's pressure.
Exactly,
Like,
yeah.
the more, and I really feel that, like, the more pressure that we put on ourselves, eventually you either A, pop, or B, you try to break through it. But that comes with talking about it. For me, anyways,
Or maybe not
it's
break
always-
through, more like take the cap off, pour some out.
Yeah, like,
You
just
know?
yo.
Let it out. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you let it out, it's just like, fuck.
Yeah. Yo, I feel so good. You feel lighter.
You feel
know?
lighter, you feel your shoulders
Yeah.
less down, you're
Yeah.
like, fuck
Yeah,
me,
yo,
like,
yeah.
I fucking been doing it all wrong, and, like, that's when I've connected with people most, is when, when I've shared something that people wouldn't expect, and then they start sharing, and it's just like, yo, like, this is what we're supposed to do, like,
Right.
we're supposed to almost like, yeah, like, we do depend on each other to, like, just be there,
Right.
you know, like, to listen and to hear and to also sometimes speak for other people to listen. I think it's very important to, at the end of the day, that comes down to finding your people. And, like, you are my people. Like,
Yes, sir.
Nick is my people. David's my people. Like,
Right.
all of you guys. Dan, she's my people. A lot of people in my life are my people because of the conversations that I've had with them, both on an individual basis, but also in the different group dynamics that we've had.
Yeah. And I just want to say this to, like, everyone who's listening. You're not going to know who your people are, I think, until after you finish school. Or at least you're getting to that point, because I'm not friends with a lot of people that I was in high school. And now I'm friends with people that I wasn't with in high school. So you really don't know, where life's going to take you. I don't think it's worth worrying about too much.
Agreed. I think that the people will come.
They always do. Always, yeah.
The people, like, shit always falls into place in that aspect. Like,
and if anybody invites you to a podcast, definitely say yes, because that's how I ended up becoming friends with all these people.
Yeah, it's just so crazy. Like, in terms of Ilia, Nick, David, the whole crew, like, everyone's a year older than me. Mm-hmm. But I've come to realize that, like, Nick says it all the time. He forgets that I'm a year younger than him. And, like, and it's been great, because, like, you find your people when they're, like, it's just like you said, I asked you if you wanted to record. Mm-hmm. You're like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
You find your people, like, hey, you want to chill? Yeah, sure. If you want to chill, like, it's like...
Yeah, if you're hitting somebody up who you assume is your friend and you feel like they're saying more no to chilling with you than yes, maybe they're not the friend you're going to end up with in the future. And this is not saying, like, oh, your friends don't make time for you. But you see that, and people are not dumb. I've had a lot of friendships, and I've had multiple relationships. You start to see when somebody is losing interest in being your friend, or at least spending time with you.
Yeah.
And
like, it's like up to the perceiver to perceive that as something personal.
Yes.
Or something is like, hey, this person needs their space. If it turns out to be permanent space, whatever, but it turns out to be temporary space and we can pick up the conversation later, that's cool too. I think it's very important to selfishly work on yourself and really focus on your needs, but to not hurt anyone in the process, or to overstep any boundaries in that process. But Ilia, I just wanted to thank you. We got a nice solid hour in.
Yes, sir.
I'm fucking hyped to go to Nick's.
Yeah,
play some chess. But,
yeah.
Thank you once again. If there's anything that you'd like to say to close, that's cool. If there isn't anything that you want to say, that's also cool. But
yeah, I mean, just thank you for having me. I really love getting involved in these kinds of things. Voicing my opinion and my thoughts, and I'm hoping this is going to be helpful to people. That's like the biggest thing for me, is helping people. So.
Yeah, word. I'm the same, and that's why we're doing it. So once again, Ilia, thank you to everyone who's listening, and I will definitely see you next time.